Elena Ramirez wiped grease from her hands and stared at the Warthog like it was calling her name. She wasn't a pilot, not officially. Just a mechanic. But tonight, under floodlights and stars, she whispered, "I could fly you." If you're ready for a story about grit, courage, and breaking limits, you're in the right place. Drop your city or country in the comments, we'd love to hear from you. The engine of A-10 number 723 let out a soft hum as Elena Ramirez stepped back, wiping her hands on a rag streaked with oil. The hangar light buzzed overhead, casting a golden sheen on her face. Around her, the crew moved with steady rhythm, tool carts rolling, radios crackling, steel boots on concrete. "Fuel mix is off again," she muttered, reaching back into the hatch without looking. A voice shouted past her. "Ramirez, you talking to the plane again?" Elena didn't bother turning. "She listens better than you, Collins." Laughter echoed down the line. "She's probably married to that plane," someone added. "Married, working overtime, and doing all the damn housework," Elena replied, tightening a bolt. More chuckles. The kind that said they liked her, respected her, but still boxed her in. The mechanic who never left the ground. She slid out from under number 723's wing and tossed the rag into the bin. Her boots echoed as she walked past rows of Warthogs parked like silent beasts under dim lights. Each one a machine she knew better than her own truck. Every rattle, every stubborn part, she could fix with a glance. "Hey, Ramirez." Chief Master Sergeant Dana leaned against the ladder. "Clean fix on the hydraulics. That bird was jammed up hard this morning." "Thanks, Chief." "You heading out?" Elena looked at her watch, 1947. "Sticking around a bit." Gave her a knowing look. "Sim again?" Elena didn't answer, but a small grin tugged at the corner of her mouth. The simulator room was quiet, low-lit with a steady mechanical hum. Everyone else had gone for the night. She booted the system, strapping into the mock Warthog cockpit, fingers moving in practiced motions. The screen fired up. Mission, mountain terrain, enemy artillery. Limited fuel. She adjusted her headset. All systems green. Seconds later, flak burst on the screen. Elena dropped altitude fast, hugging the slopes. Her hand moved smooth on the stick. Fire. Evade. Flare out. Refocus. She leaned forward slightly, eyes sharp, locked in. Missile lock. Chaff. Roll left. She hit every target. Saved the team. 0 casualties. Mission complete, 98% accuracy, combat efficient. She sat back, heartbeat steady, fists just a little too tight on the stick. "Still got it," she whispered. Her voice was the only sound in the room. As she stood to leave, she glanced over her shoulder at her reflection in the sim's dark display, helmet on, flight suit zipped halfway up. Like a ghost of the person she wanted to be. The hangar would call her name again in the morning, tools, grease, the usual jokes. But tonight, for a few quiet minutes, she hadn't been just a mechanic. She'd been a pilot. And even if no one had seen it, she had. The sun was barely up when Elena reached the hangar, clutching a steaming mug of black coffee. The metal floor felt cold through her boots. A-10 number 723 sat in silence, dew clinging to its wings. Mornings like this reminded her of home. Mountains. Fog. Her brother waking her up before sunrise to talk about planes. "Morning, Staff Sergeant," came Chief Ko's voice from behind. Elena turned. "Thought I'd beat you in." Ko raised an eyebrow. "I live here, remember? Old habits." The two women stared at the Warthog. For a while, neither of them said anything. Ko broke the quiet. "You fly last night?" Elena hesitated. "Simran. Steep canyon drop. 7 minutes flat." Ko gave a low whistle. "You still chase that dream, huh?" "I don't chase it," Elena replied, sipping her coffee. "Just keep it nearby." More silence. This time, it stretched longer. Ko walked over, pulled out a small folding ladder, and sat on it. You ever talk about him? Elena didn't answer right away. Her grip tightened around her cup. Co waited. I was 16 when my brother got his wings, Elena said finally. He flew the A-10 too. Said it made him feel indestructible. She smiled slightly. I believed him. He died in combat? Yeah, Elena said. Over Syria. Small support mission turned sideways. He stayed behind to cover the evac. Took fire on the way out. Co gave a soft nod. Tough loss. People kept saying he was a hero, Elena went on. But to me, he was just my big brother who showed me how to build paper planes. She looked at the Warthog again. So, when he died, I told myself the world didn't need another pilot. It needed someone on the ground. Someone to make sure guys like him didn't go down because of a lazy bolt. Ko's voice was gentle. And that's why you never applied to the academy? Elena nodded. It felt selfish. Ko stood now, walking over to pat the side of the A-10. I get it. I do. I thought the same thing once. Back in the day, I wanted to fly Black Hawks. She let out a short laugh. Short legs, tough ratings. Got told I'd be more useful staying on the ground. Eventually I believed them. Elena studied her. And now? Ko shrugged. Now I help build people up instead of tearing my own self down. They stood there a while longer, engines starting to stir in the distance. The hangar grew louder as the morning shift arrived. Before walking away, Ko added, You've got the hands of a mechanic, Ramirez. But you've got the eyes of a pilot. Elena didn't answer. She watched the sun peek through the hangar doors, lighting up the nose of number 723. That old fire in her chest? Still there. Always had been. Just waiting for the right moment to take off. The hangar smelled like fuel and sweat. Morning sun streaked through the open bay doors as the flight crew gathered near the whiteboard for briefing. Colonel Whitaker stood front and center, tall, pressed, and tight-lipped as always. Elena leaned against the side of a tool cart, arms crossed, half listening. Most of it was flight schedules, maintenance rotations, and weather updates. Nothing she hadn't heard before. Whitaker scanned the room. Third Warthog down for systems recalibration. I want it flight ready by 1800. A pilot near Elena muttered under his breath, if the grunts can manage it. Elena glanced sideways, her jaw tensing. She let it go. Mostly. Any questions? Whitaker asked. A hand went up, Lieutenant Skid Mitchell. We've got 3 in rotation, but only 2 pilots cleared. If one of us is out. A small ripple of conversation followed. Elena didn't plan to speak, but the words came out before she could stop them. I could fly the Warthog as well as any of you. Silence rippled through the group. Heads turned. A few eyes widened. Someone stifled a laugh. Whitaker looked straight at her. Excuse me, Staff Sergeant. Elena stood straighter. What I meant was, if you're short, I've logged close to 1,000 sim hours. I know every panel on that bird. Every warning light, every... That's enough. His voice cut through the air, crisp as a boot snap. The room went still. Whitaker stepped toward her, tone cold. You're a mechanic, Ramirez. You fix gear. You don't fly jets. I know that, Elena said, quieter now, but firm. But if I had the chance. You had your chance when you enlisted and checked the wrong box. You want flight hours? Try a video game. His words hit harder than she expected. You're dismissed. She blinked once, nodded, and turned without a word. The snickers behind her didn't matter. Not as much as the flash of heat burning behind her eyes. Later that day, she sat at a desk in the admin tent, eyes fixed on the form in front of her. Training reassignment request, initial pilot program. She signed it, quietly slid the paper across the counter. The personnel tech looked surprised. Did Whitaker approve this? No, she said. The tech hesitated. I'll send it through. 3 days later, the message came back on official letterhead. Request denied. Lack of flight ratings, no certified air hours, disqualified by classification. Elena read it 3 times. Not because she didn't understand. Because it still hurt. That night, she skipped the sim. She didn't want to hear the engine sounds, or feel the stick in her hands. She walked through the hangar instead, past number 723, past the tools, holding nothing. Around her, jets she loved waited to fly. And she couldn't. Not because she wasn't ready. Because someone already decided she wouldn't be allowed the chance. The hangar was quiet, almost peaceful, for once. Most of the crew had gone for chow, but Elena stayed behind, crouched beside A-10 number 723, flipping through a thick, weathered manual. Chief Co appeared at her side, holding 2 folders. Page 76. Electrical redundancies. Elena smirked. Already memorized. Co set the folders down and leaned against the ladder. One of the folders read, USAF Tactical Flight Procedures, a -10A divided by B. It wasn't meant for mechanics. You didn't get this from me, Co said. I didn't see anything, Elena replied. Co crouched beside her. You ever sit in the front seat for real? Only during maintenance checks. Co nodded toward the ladder. Go on. Engine's cold. No one's looking. Elena climbed into the cockpit. Her fingers moved slowly across the controls. With the sun hitting the gauges just right, it almost felt like something real. You know, Co said from below, I used to dream about flying helos. Got all the way to interview stage. Then one of the commanders said I had too soft a voice to lead a crew. Elena looked down at her. That's ridiculous. Co gave a small shrug. So is telling someone they're just a mechanic. Later that night, inside the simulator room, Elena was mid-run, pushing hard through a canyon flyover when the door opened. Seriously, came a voice. You're still at it. She paused her sim. Skid. Should have known. Lieutenant Mitchell strolled in, arms crossed, grinning. What is this, your secret pilot fantasy? Just keeping my skills sharp, Elena said. Skills, he laughed, then leaned in over her shoulder. You ever hit a moving convoy with crosswinds? Twice, she said. I tagged both trucks. He chuckled. Yeah, right. She restarted the mission, leaned into it. Pull, rise, roll. Engage. Munitions drop. Missiles trail behind. 2 direct hits. Skid blinked. Was that beginner mode? She threw him a look. Okay, he said, holding up his hands. That was clean. A few mornings later, Skid was prepping for a systems check when he spotted her near number 722. Hey, Grease Monkey, he called. You know startup protocol? What? You want to test me? Climb in. Let's see if you still remember your little sim tricks when it's not a video game. Elena jumped in without a word. By the time he reached the side ladder, the electric boot was already engaged, and she was halfway through pre-flight. Skid raised an eyebrow. Damn. You're efficient. I listen when people talk, she said. Noted. From that day on, he started calling her over more, first as a joke, then out of habit. She ran cold starts. Checked HUD calibrations. Could name which jets had rattling panels or faulty fuel sensors before the pilots even asked. People began to nod when she walked by, not just in respect, but in curiosity. She wasn't just a wrench girl anymore. She had her hands on birds and her eyes on the sky. And little by little, doors started to crack open. The afternoon heat rolled over the tarmac in waves, making the distant hangars shimmer like they were underwater. Flight crews moved fast but focused, checking fuel lines, weapons loads, comms systems. Every inch of every jet had to be clean and ready. Elena stood by A-10 number 723, torque wrench still in hand, watching the team rush past with a kind of calm. Behind her, Skid strolled up in his flight suit, helmet tucked under his arm. You know, he said, grinning, this tin can wouldn't fly straight if you weren't the one keeping her in shape. Elena rolled her eyes but smirked. Then maybe you better not crash her. I just fixed the flaps. Fair enough, he laughed. Simrun later? Or is that against doctor's orders? She wiped sweat off her forehead and leaned against the wing. Only if you promise to stop calling them video games. Skid gave her a mock salute and jogged off toward the briefing room. Elena watched him go for a second longer than usual. By sunset, the base had settled into steady, tense silence. The pilots would be flying a pre-dawn patrol through contested airspace, maybe over enemy radar, maybe not. Intel was vague, and that made people nervous. Elena stayed behind after the shift. The hangar emptied out quick, just a few late techs and soft jazz humming from someone's portable speaker near the back. She climbed the ladder to number 723's cockpit and lowered herself into the seat, slow and careful, like it might protest. No noise. No orders. Just her, alone in the cradle of one of the most dangerous machines in the sky. She rested her hands on the throttle and joystick. Familiar. Comforting. Like they belonged there. Outside, the last light of the sun faded to a mix of red and purple. The metal around her glowed in the dusk, warm like a breathing thing. She closed her eyes. Battery on. Avionics check. Comms green. Engine 1, clear. Engine 2, ready. Nose wheel steering. Brakes set. Flaps down. Taxi out. She whispered each step like prayer. Her breathing steadied, and for just a moment, she imagined the sound of engines roaring to life, not in a sim chamber, not in a dream, but here. For real. Wheels rolling. Tires lifting from the runway. The Warthog trusting her enough to fly. Elena let herself feel it. Just for 1 minute. Then the minute passed. From the back of the hangar, Chief Ko's voice called out, "You camping out, Ramirez?" She smiled, opened her eyes. "Just making sure she knows I've got her back." Ko chuckled. "Good. 'Cause tomorrow, she's gonna earn her keep." As Ko walked away, Elena stayed seated a moment longer. The cockpit didn't feel like a prison anymore. It felt like a door. One she wasn't allowed to open. Not yet. But if it ever did, she knew exactly how to fly through it. The first explosion hit just before dawn. Elena was in the hangar, sliding a tool cart back into place when the sharp boom shook the ground under her boots. For a split second, she froze. Then came the siren. Warning. Unidentified aerial threat in Sector 29er. All personnel moved to alert stations. This is not a drill. Outside, the sky lightened in patches. Sunrise mingled with smoke. "Drones," someone shouted. "They're inside the outer perimeter." Elena moved fast, sprinting toward the tarmac. Beyond the flight line, orange bursts lit the edge of the base. Several Warthogs had already been positioned for what was supposed to be a simulated patrol through potential hot zones, not live combat. Now it was real. Too real. Ground crew scrambled for cover as the intercom flared again. 2 pilots down. Possible casualties on runway C, evac underway. She made it to Warthog number 723 and ducked behind its landing gear, heart pounding. All around her, people shouted into radios or rushed to pull wounded from the debris field near the North Bay. A loud crack split the air, a Warthog nosed hard to the side, its landing gear buckled, a fire licking at the tail. Medics ran out with stretchers. Her stomach dropped as she saw the tail numbers. That was number 724. Skid's bird. She didn't see him anywhere. Elena turned to a nearby crew chief. Was he in the air? The man shook his head, panic in his eyes. They went up early, real recon, not practice. I think he was one of them. Skid was out there. Alone. In hostile airspace. Another voice broke through comms nearby, garbled, static, but urgent. Echo 2-1, hit, forced landing East Ridge. Elena's breath caught. Skid. Someone shouted to Colonel Whitaker, who was storming across the tarmac, shouting orders. We've got a down jet and no pilots left. Whitaker didn't miss a beat. Reroute birds. I want those Warthogs off the ground when backup arrives. Get me 2 cleared pilots, now. But we only had 3 assigned, sir, a junior officer yelled. One's confirmed injured. Mitchell's MIA. That leaves no. I said find me pilots, Whitaker snapped. I don't care if they're half-conscious. At the far end of the tarmac, 3 Warthogs sat fueled and armed, engines quiet, ready to go. But no one was climbing into their cockpits. No pilots left to fly them. Elena moved slowly toward number 723, drawn without thinking. Her eyes locked on the ladder. Her fingers twitched. She could feel lines of checklists run through her brain like muscle memory. Everything she needed to do, it was already in her. But she didn't move. Not yet. Just stood there, watching the chaos tighten around her. 1 Warthog on fire. 1 pilot downed, calling for help. 3 jets ready. No one in the air. And the only person who could do something wasn't even supposed to be on the runway. Not yet. Smoke drifted across the edge of the runway, carried by a morning wind that smelled like burning metal and jet fuel. The rising sun painted everything in shades of orange and gray. Somewhere out there, Skid was waiting. Hurt. Trapped. Elena stood at the base of Warthog number 723, staring up at the cockpit. The noise around her faded. People yelled, machines rumbled, radios crackled, but all she could hear was Skid's voice from earlier that week. This bird wouldn't fly straight without you. She looked around. No pilots. No orders to move. Just chaos, fear, and 3 jets sitting useless. She grabbed the ladder. Ramirez. Colonel Whitaker's voice sliced through the air. Get away from that aircraft. That is a direct order. She climbed anyway. Do not mount that cockpit, Sergeant. I said stand down. Her boots hit the top rung. She took one last look at the ground. Chief Co stepped forward, voice loud enough to cut through the mess. Calm. Solid. You asked for a pilot, Colonel, she said. You've got one. Whitaker's eyes blazed. She's not qualified. She's not even cleared for air traffic. She knows this bird better than anyone alive, Co said, firm. And unlike everyone else, she's here. Elena dropped into the seat and snapped on her helmet, hands moving fast. Switch, ignition, throttle. Muscle memory. Reflex. No hesitation. Avionics on. Systems green, she whispered to herself, barely breathing. This is real. This is happening. The engines roared to life. The sound rolled across the base like thunder. Crews on the ground stopped mid-step. Elena glanced at the taxi lights, then the comms panel. Her heart thudded against her chest. From the tower, Whitaker barked something unintelligible into the radio, red-faced. Co simply looked up at the jet and gave the smallest nod. You've got this. The Warthog rolled forward, its heavy frame moving smooth down the runway. Elena's grip tightened on the throttle. The runway ahead was cracked, half-lit, and littered from earlier strikes. One small mistake, and she'd become part of the wreckage. No fear. No going back. She pushed the throttle. The engines screamed. Wheels lifted. Number 723 took to the air. The jet climbed fast, steady and clean, the throttle alive under her palm. The control stick moved like it belonged to her. Dials blinked. Gauges held true. Every sound, every tremor, she understood it without thinking. Down below, the crew stared up in stunned silence. A mechanic was in the sky. In the tower, Whitaker stood frozen, a head set halfway to his mouth. He didn't give the order, but he didn't stop her either. Co crossed her arms and watched the Warthog rise higher. She said nothing. She didn't have to. Through her headset, Elena's voice finally crackled in, low and focused. Warthog number 723 airborne. Awaiting next instruction. That was all. Nothing more. No panic. No bravado. Just calm. Professional. Elena leveled out, the vast horizon stretching before her. The sun had barely crested the mountains, casting everything ahead in gold. She took a slow breath. This is it. For real. You're up here now. The cockpit felt different when the sky was under her, not above. She wasn't reaching anymore. She was flying. The ridgeline came into view fast, sharp rocks, dust clouds, and scorch marks blackening the earth below. Through her visor, Elena could just make out the wreck of a downed A-10 halfway buried near a dry gulch. Smoke poured from the tail. She switched channels. Echo 2-1, this is Warthog number 723. Confirm location. A burst of static. Then Skid's voice, weak but alive. Still here. Took cover east of the bird. One click from wreck, company's not friendly. Elena's eyes narrowed. Panning left, she spotted movement, 4 enemy vehicles weaving down a dirt path, maybe 400 yards from Skid's last position. She wasted no time. Maintain low profile. I've got you covered. She dropped altitude, banking hard to the right, hugging the ridge so tight the Warthog sliced through its own backwash of dust. Flak lit up the sky. Rounds zipped past her canopy like angry sparks, but she kept calm. Her hands were steady, tuned to every vibration in the machine. Don't fight the bird, fly with her. Through the HUD, the hostile trucks popped into view. She tagged them fast. Targets locked. Her thumb hovered for a split second, then missiles launched. 2, then 3. Direct hits. Explosions rippled below, flames rising in jagged flashes. God, I missed that sound, Skid muttered on the radio, coughing between words. Elena grinned but stayed focused. Sit tight. I've got air rescue inbound. Above her, a medevac chopper approached fast from the north. She switched to support channel. Rescue 1, incoming fire in lower valley. I'll draw attention. Stick low. Acknowledged, Warthog, came the calm voice. As the chopper swept in, another enemy drone came skimming over the ridge. Elena caught it on radar and quickly rolled left, dipping beneath its sight line. The drone matched her move. Her screen flickered briefly, systems warning. Auto-tracking froze. Come on, she muttered, flipping a switch. Nothing. Then she smiled. Reaching under the panel, she pulled off a side panel latch, one only a mechanic would know even existed. Heat sink wire slipped loose. She twisted it back in with 2 fingers, bare knuckle scraping metal. Try to ground me with a loose wire? Not today. Systems rechecked. HUD cleared. Drone back in sight. She looped around and fired 2 bursts from the GAU-8 cannon. Drone destroyed. The medevac descended through the smoke. She circled above as Skid was loaded in. This is Rescue 1. We've got the pilot. Heading back to base. Elena checked instruments. Almost out of fuel. Hull intact. No more enemies on scope. It was done. She opened the comms one last time. Target neutralized. Rescue secured. Warthog returning, out. Back at base, as the Warthog's wheels touched the runway with a solid thud, every pair of eyes followed her in. Not as a mechanic. As a pilot. The Warthog taxied to a stop, its engines winding down with a deep, growling hum. Elena sat still for a moment, breathing hard inside her helmet. Her hands finally relaxed on the controls. She had landed. Alive. Safe. Mission complete. She reached up, pulled the helmet off, and pushed open the canopy. Cool air hit her face. It smelled like jet fuel and smoke, and something else. Silence. That uneasy kind of silence when everyone's watching. Elena climbed down the ladder slowly. Her boots hit the runway with a solid thump. Waiting at the bottom were 2 military police officers, stiff-backed, their eyes unreadable. Her chest tightened. One of them stepped forward. Staff Sergeant Elena Ramirez? She nodded. Yes, sir. You're coming with us. All around them, crew members still stood frozen. Some in awe. Some confused. Nobody spoke. From across the tarmac, Co walked toward them, fast. But she didn't shout. She gave Elena a long look, steady, proud. No regrets. As Elena was led away, she caught a glimpse of something through the hangar's open office window. Colonel Whitaker, standing alone, arms crossed, eyes glued to the monitor in front of him. Grainy black and white footage replayed over and over. Her Warthog, cutting low through enemy fire. A controlled spin to dodge a drone. Clean, surgical strike. No wasted moves. Whitaker didn't say a word. His jaw tightened. Inside the command office, Elena sat across from a long table. Her flight suit was half unzipped, sweat drying along her neck. 2 officers flipped through pages, her sim logs, her maintenance record, her denied transfer request. No one made eye contact. The door behind her opened. Colonel Whitaker stepped in. He didn't sit. Just placed both hands on the table and looked right at her. You stole one of my aircraft, he said. Elena said nothing. You flew without clearance, broke chain of command, compromised base security, and disobeyed a direct order. Still, she stayed quiet. And you saved a pilot's life, he added, almost like he didn't want to admit it. His eyes flicked to the folder on the table. Then back to her. What you did can't be ignored, he said. But neither can how you did it. He didn't sound angry. He didn't sound anything. Then he turned and walked out. The officers looked at each other. "We're going to hold you for questioning," one said. Elena stood as the MPs stepped to either side of her again. Her hands weren't cuffed, but it still felt like a prison. As the door closed behind her, a dozen thoughts ran through her mind. Would she be discharged? Demoted? Worse? Was flying worth it? She thought of the sound of the engines. The sky. Her hands steady on the stick. Yes. Yes, it was. Elena sat tall in her chair, dress blues sharp and pressed. Her nameplate caught the morning light. Across the panel table sat 3 decorated officers and 1 civilian advisor. The walls of the Pilot Academy office were lined with photos of squadrons, aircraft, and medals. They had been quiet for a full minute. The lead officer finally spoke. "Staff Sergeant Ramirez, your unauthorized flight broke multiple regulations." "That's not in question." Elena nodded once. "Yes, sir." "But what is in question," he continued, flipping through her file, "is how you pulled off a combat-level mission without official flight training and brought a pilot home under fire." Another officer leaned forward. "Most people in your position would have waited for orders. You didn't." "No, sir," Elena said. "He didn't have that kind of time." She paused, then added, "And I knew I could do it." The men looked at each other. A long beat passed. Then the lead officer shut her file and said, "Your actions fall under emergency engagement, supported by confirmed visual analysis from command, and special recognition for conduct under extreme operational stress." He smiled slightly. "Your violation has been overturned. Welcome to pilot training." Weeks later, on a bright morning soaked with sunlight, a small ceremony gathered quietly on the flight line. No cameras. Just a few personnel, a folded flag, and a name being called. Elena Ramirez. She stepped forward. Whitaker stood waiting, silver wings in hand. No speech, no grand statement. Just a quiet nod. "You earned these," he said. He pinned the wings just above her heart and stepped back. "Use them well." She saluted. He returned it. Then, in a low voice, he added, "We underestimated you." She met his gaze. Most people do. The following week, a Time magazine sat on a desk inside the hangar office. The cover showed a Warthog's cockpit in profile, sunlight streaking across the canopy. Under the headline it read, "She was just a mechanic until she flew the Warthog." The article talked about grit, risk, and change in the Air Force's future. About how talent sometimes hides in the places no one bothers to look. Elena stood out on the tarmac, now in a flight suit, not borrowed, but hers. She held her helmet under her arm. The sharp wind tugged at her sleeve as she squinted up at the nose of her jet. Not number 723 anymore. Now it had 5 letters painted just below the canopy. LTE, Ramirez. Chief Co stood off to the side, arms crossed, smiling quietly. As Elena climbed the ladder, she ran her hand along the hull, feeling the warmth of the metal in the sun. The sky looked wide open. She climbed into the cockpit, settled into the seat, and reached for the controls. Not just a mechanic anymore. Now, she flies.